Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Bregaton. Let's take a look around the Anatomical Opera. That gatekeeper lets anyone into the opera now. I don't think he's doing much of anything anymore. The shoe sends spent materials to the corpse dump. Materials such as you. Careful, I'm carrying a sample of puppet plague. It's best if it stays in the flask. Did another specimen escape its cage? Homunculus promised he would let me assist him in his next experiment. Oh, and our next companion. Ulfar. The bars of the cage are sturdy enough to stop a tank, or the fury of a post-human. Take a look around first. Curious
you know
how
what you remind me of, Mistress Haydari? A void parasite. You can survive without an atmosphere, even in extreme conditions.
I'll take that as a compliment, Master Versarian. What use would I be without my talent for survival, after all?
It looks like these extend. One on the other side too. Oh. There's a quest marker up here. Or an NPC marker. The tall Drukhari, whose body is riddled with painful-looking puncture wounds and dotted with metal rings and clamps, lets out a chuckle as you approach and begins speaking in his own language. Your elucidator hisses to life, translating the words. Look, Carrion. Is this the Monkai that cost you your place at the Archon's side? Marajai's eyes flare with turquoise fire at the sight of you, an immediate, uncontrollable urge to kill. The Drukhari seizes the blades hanging from his belt, and freezes at the shout of the metal-studded xenos. Careful with the meat for the arena, Marajai. If Sinisthoria is short on toys for her fighters, you'll be punished again. She seems to enjoy pitting you against Chimerae. Maybe this time she won't deem it necessary to give you back your skin after you slay them all. The motionless Marajai turns his head toward his kin. You notice a thin red stripe on his neck below his ear, like a fresh stitch. Shaking with barely contained rage, the former Draken stares at you with dark eyes. So I'm wondering if Abus can speak Gothic. I'm gonna go with option 3. Because Marajai is also a possible companion. I'll snap the elucidator shut and address Marajai. Your kin do not seem overly fond of you. Marajai casts a contemptuous glance at the witches, but without hesitation switches to Low Gothic. This witch cult scum is not my kin. Half-borns like Abus belong here in the filth of the chasm. He cuts himself off, his gloves squeaking in protest as he clenches his fists. You are trapped. I am trapped. We could help each other. You? Help me. Drukhari snorts disdainfully. Why would the quarry help the hunter? You expect me to believe that? Let's make a deal. You help me take out my enemies, I shall help you take out yours. Because pitting xenos against xenos is still killing xenos. It's not undogmatic. Marajai lifts his chin and lets out a hiss, more pensive than angry. Abus makes an impatient gesture. I'm tired of listening to you and your old friend whispering in that primitive babble. Enough. We must go. Marajai grudgingly obeys the order, but as he walks away, he cannot resist tossing another unreadable look in your direction. Now I'm not saying that after he helps us out, I won't hand him to the Inquisition. Because they could always do with some more research material. Alright, Ulfar. Did I read this already? The bars of the cage are sturdy enough to stop a tank, or the fury of a post-human.
Not to see them cut down. But it's unclean. Alone. The past guarding.
Singing softly under his breath, the man of enormous proportions is intently stripping raw meat from a bone with his teeth. His unwashed red hair is falling into his face. His beard is matted and bloodstained. The aforementioned teeth look more like fangs than any human equivalent. It's one of their genetic quirks, the space wolves, because they have the canis helix. A less knowledgeable person might not recognize this giant humanoid, but you're well aware that this is a space marine, an angel of the Emperor. The scar tattoos on his body, which at first appeared abstract and primitive, together form the angular image of a wolf's mouth with bared fangs. This person must be the genetic offspring of Leman Russ, the space wolf of Fenris. Oh cool, we can talk to him in his own language, which I guess as a Deathworld character is more fitting than these. Fenris Yoda, Black.
Fenris Yoda, mortal. You know the old words. Good words. Strong as a rock. Sharp as the blade of a force axe. Deadly as a kraken's tooth.
I brought up the Deathworld bit because Fenris is also a Deathworld. And the Space Wolves are my favorite Space Marine chapters, so I'm really excited about this. Red-haired giant's jaws stop their work. Emotions are hard to read on the crudely hewn face. Think you've surprised him. The words are spoken in the guttural rasp of an inveterate killer, wholly in keeping with the man's formidable appearance. But you do not expect him to slip into poetic epithets so readily. Space Wolves do like their skulls.
What do you want?
Picking a piece of meat from between his teeth, the warrior resumes his murmured singing. Between the lines of his song, he tosses out. Study the man. Huge body with straggly, overgrown red hair perfectly suits the deep, chilling voice of this man, or of this beast in the guise of a man. Tribal scar-like tattoos cover his chest, arms, and back. You glimpse intricate braids in his mass of unwashed hair. His body bears so many pale scars, you cannot count them all, and muscles bulge beneath his skin like boulders. He looks like a statue carved from stone. It is clear that captivity has sapped this prisoner of none of his physical power. Your assessment is confirmed when you spot the remains of a Drukhari in the pile of carrion at his feet, likely one of the homunculus' servants. The Drukhari's flesh appears to be making a fine snack for your new acquaintance. I mentioned before that Space Marines can practically eat anything, and I do mean anything. They could eat rocks if they needed to. I listen closely to the song the prisoner is singing to himself. You do not know the language. The sounds seem crude and mangled, but not entirely lacking the harsh dignity of a form of Gothic, while also sounding similar to the rumble of a landslide. Sharp and choppy guttural phrases tumbling forth in a harsh rhythm. Try to join in the singing. Close your eyes and enter the flow of the song, like slipping into a fast-flowing mountain river. Words rise up naturally in your mind. They're not the same ones sung by the prisoner, but you sense their aptness. Verse flows from your lips, full of surprising poetic metaphors and bloody details of a nameless hero fighting monsters under the light of unfamiliar stars.
You are the one who has supped the mjord of the Skjalds, I see. In the long haul, some of my brothers will be eager to tell you of their exploits so that you would sing a saga of their deeds.
When the song ends, red-haired giant looks at you in surprise, the ice in his eyes thawing slightly. Mjord is a form of alcohol. Space Marines have very, very robust metabolisms. Their entire form is meant to process like poisons and alcohol too. So most of the time, Space Marines can't get drunk. Space Wolves make Mjord, which can get them drunk. It's a little bit more than just alcohol. Who are you?
I am a wolf.
At first glance, the man does not strike you as possessing great intellect. He's clearly more accustomed to mauling and killing than thinking. You detect a certain shrewdness in his eyes. After looking you over, he says shortly, "How did you come to be here?"
My pack answered the Inquisition's call and came to the Coronis Expanse. There was a battle, and then...
I'm not sure when this game takes place, but the Space Wolves and Inquisition don't really get along. Since the Months of Shame, where the Space Wolves and Inquisition actually went to war with each other. I know this game takes place before the current canon 40k setting. I don't think any Primarchs have returned yet. In the time that this game takes place.
The young wolves yearning to be meat for their brotherlings. To a feast of bolters they went out roving. Though they were but few, one long fang with them went loping. Not to see them cut down by scythes unclean. The pups he sent scattering, and there stood alone the paths guarding. For a foe he long spied, one worthy among unworthy. The song of swords singing, they clashed with clamor and skill, until stood the old wolf upon the bones. Then, by the birds of battle, was he brought down. Was that clear enough? This saga sounds less interesting in prose.
Giant chuckles. I wish to know more about your brothers.
That butcher sent you to spy for him, did he? Or do they know nothing of the Emperor's Angels, the Space Wolves of Fenris, or the great Layman Russ in your corner of the galaxy?
With a crooked smile, he narrows his eyes at you. Why does the homunculus keep you in a cage?
For his own safety. When I am not busy killing inhuman spawn in the arena, the xenos fear my will.
The giant lets out a low growl that rings with the fury of a wild beast. We suffer the same fate. I was also captured by the xenos. They forced me to kill for their entertainment.
But I sit in a cage while you roam freely around their city. They do not fear you. Maybe there is a reason for that. Maybe our fates are not the same at all.
He shrugs. Well, that's their mistake to make. Point at the piece of meat in his hand. Don't they feed you?
A predator does not eat only when it is hungry. There are many reasons to eat.
The warrior looks at you in mild surprise. Then understanding brings a crooked grin to his face. Alright, answer just as obliquely. There must have been a reason for this bloody repast. For a moment, Vicious Grin loses some of its sincerity. The bloodthirsty prisoner casts an intense, scrutinizing look at your face, as if trying to read your thoughts. You must be planning to escape, yes?
And why do you want to know?
Grinning, the warrior runs his fingers through his dirty hair, making himself look even wilder in the process. I have no more questions. Chewing, he wipes the blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. A warrior such as you could prove useful to me.
To get what you want, you will have to convince two very headstrong individuals. Me and my captor. That claw-handed xenos.
With narrowed eyes, he says weightily, "Step away from the cage." Alright, Gervontius, I want my space wolf. Let us discuss what you expect of me. Gervontius pauses before responding, as if dissecting your question inside his head. Ask, what is your quarrel with the witches? Lately, they have shown arrogance and disrespect toward me. They want to rise in the eyes of the Archon and belittle me. They rank their tasteless flesh dances above my art. They come to my abode to gawk at my treasured secrets. It is time the chasm was reminded that witches too can bleed. Tell me more about the arena. Witches rule the arenas. This is the way of the spires. They're lethal brides of our dead gods. When they enter the arena, the crowd rides with ecstasy, but this is a rare sight. Typically, their fosterlings, the bloodstained proselytes, oversee the butchery. These are the best killers and athletes who serve the cult. Such arrogant upstarts. They have been undefeated for far too long. When Sinisthoria reigned over the cult of the Fatal Thirst, proselytes behaved with more respect, but the senior succubus has since withdrawn into the shadows. Now Kekaros reigns in the arena, and Tazara leads the raids. An insolent hag and a presumptuous non-entity. Perfect match. As soon as Tazara drew her final breath, Kekaros' ambitions doubled. Became utterly insufferable. The last time I was in the arena, I saw Marajai. What was he doing there? That brazen, ambitious, and woefully imprudent whelp. He was cast down from the Drakons of the Cabal but earned the good graces of the Witches of the Fatal Thirst, his very first fight in the arena. He was invited to join their finest, the bloodstained proselytes. Some say he was involved in the death of their succubus Tazara. If so, the Marajai may be disappointed by his reception in the ranks of the cult. What is your connection to the arena of the Fatal Thirst? My servant harvests meat in the chasm and delivers it to their bloody performances. I improve it with augments and stimulants to make it interesting enough so the witches will enjoy killing it. Sometimes I indulge them with little treats, biomachines or beasts molded by my surgical genius. Say nothing. Your silence means you have run out of questions. I'll gladly return to my research. I see. You can hear impatience creaking in Gervontius' voice as he says, "Have you enough information now, specimen?" Master. Gosh, I hate that. Allow me to take the Space Marine you keep in a cage. No. The homunculus snaps curtly and returns to his work. Noticing that you're still waiting for something, he hisses irritably, though not taking his eyes off the experiment. You wish to continue wasting my time with your pathetic pleading and whining, specimen. Do you know the price? Pay up or get out. I have nothing to pay you with but my own flesh. Please accept it as a gift. Gervontius thinks for a moment. Your tissues are of little interest to me. You are a rather unremarkable piece of meat, Monkai. However, luckily for you, I happen to be in need of a fresh spinal cord sample. Oh, okay. It means I get to save one of the Emperor's angels, then it's probably worth it. Space Marine is typically worth like 100 regular people. Without warning, Homunculus' limb sees you in the death grip, and a shrieking drill bites into your spine. You want to scream, but you cannot. Your throat convulsively constricts in agony, preventing you from drawing a single breath. Your jaw twitches, clenching and unclenching with such force that you nearly bite off your tongue. Just when you think you cannot take any more, Gervontius extracts a drill bit with a squelching crunch and closes the wound with some kind of staples and needles. We got obedient specimen. Every movement and breath reveals new shades of intolerable pain. All you can do is grit your teeth and conquer it, an obedient specimen should. Obedient specimen. So be it. You've earned a few minutes of my attention. The answer is still no. This particular Monkai specimen has phenomenal parameters. I previously studied 2 other specimens of the same breed, but have yet to untangle their genetic secrets. He also performs well enough in the arena. I'll not part with the last specimen. If you do not release the Emperor's Angel, retribution shall fall upon you, Xenos. Was that a threat? I struggle to follow your kind's pitiful metaphors. especially those that are supposed to sound threatening. You're simply incapable of inspiring fear. If that was an attempt at intimidation, I remain unshaken. With him, I would definitely succeed. It would further both our interests. Devontius narrows his eyes. If you're so helpless, then what use was there in letting you live? Surely it is dangerous to keep such a prisoner in your abode. What if he escapes and comes for your head? Homunculus scoffs. You truly think some Mankai can frighten me? His body may be strong, his mind is simple, and therefore he is no more difficult to keep under control than any other member of your species. That's supposed to be surely. Surely the loss of some Mankai could never impede the work of a mind as great as yours. Perhaps the genetic subtype of all three specimens was defective, and this is the cause of my limited success. In that case, the loss of this specimen would not be significant. Recommend pain as a means of pacification, and you can take his armor. I found it entirely unintriguing. Bartius hands you a bone key. A key made of osseous substance covered in a myriad of tiny spikes. It can only be used if fed with the right type of blood. Alright. The red-haired giant does not stop singing under his breath, does not seem to notice you, intent as he is on his bloody repast. I need your help. The prisoner looks at you expectantly, without stopping his chewing, but his expression shifts subtly, as if his affected crudeness of mind and manner has been replaced by focus and cunning. Recite the warrior's litany. Even a heretic or non-human can wet a profane blade in the blood of enemies. But a true warrior of humanity does not fight for gratification or trophies. He fights to carry out his will, that is his duty, and it is a blessing.
You speak well. I have heard these bookish words many times before, but this is the first time I have heard them spoken with such resolve. I see that you believe in them, that you live by them. I respect that. I will help you. Let no one say that I forgot my duty to the Allfather.
The giant sizes you up with interest. The Space Wolves refer to the Emperor as the Allfather.
It seems Tervantius is not as clever as he likes to appear if he's letting me out of the cage. The joke is on him. Good steel I have already, but if we are going hunting, I will need my wolf skin.
He rolls his huge shoulders and you hear his joints crack loudly. He lifts his battle knife from the floor, decorated with scarlet runes. It seems to be his last surviving possession. Weighing it in his hand and wearing a skeptical frown, the wolf says,
What did you say your name was?
Throwing back his head, lets out a blood-chilling howl, one that contains the deranged mirth of evil spirits dancing on an icy cliff. A predatory grin blooms on his face. Ulfar is a space wolf, a mighty space marine. His proportions instill respect in his allies and fear in his foes. Because Ulfar takes up 4 cells instead of 1, certain mechanics may work differently for him. Ulfar does not use cover or conventional human armor and weapons. Ulfar's unique ability allows him once per combat, instead of losing consciousness due to having his wounds reduced to 0, to become incapacitated for 2 rounds. Because Space Marines have a much higher healing factor. They heal very, very quickly. While in this state, Ulfar cannot be targeted by attacks or suffer damage. He also counts as full cover for his allies. Alright, what's he got? Wolfskin. It's power armor, of course. Gives him plus 20 strength. Astartes bolt pistol. Anything unique? Astartes combat knife. An attack with this knife kills the target. The wielder restores 1 AP and can make an additional attack with this knife. Astartes bolter. Astartes power gloves. Space Marine's recoil is decreased by his strength bonus. Space Marine's melee attacks also apply staggered on the targets if they fail a toughness resistance test with a penalty. Wolf Pelt Cloak grants 10% armor, as long as the wearer has performed both melee and ranged attacks this turn. Every enemy in a 5-cell radius that is smaller than the wearer suffers 1 stack of Perplexed, and it stacks. And Astartes Power Boots. The kick ability costs 0 AP and deals an additional strength bonus damage. That tells me he's a soldier, right? Arc Militant. So, I disagree with this. He should be a warrior. The Space Wolves are even called Sky Warrior. It's in the name. That's disappointing. I mean, the soldier's a fine class, but he should definitely be a warrior. The Arch Militant's fine. I was thinking about making him a bounty hunter, though. The second archetype is already selected. So he has run and gun, we've seen that. Awareness here. Revel and Slaughter. Firearm Mastery. Unpredictable. The soldier gains plus 7% critical hit chance. This bonus is doubled against enemies from which the soldier is protected by cover at the moment of the attack. Does that work with him since he's always... Did he count as cover? Agility. Second Skin. Soldier's medium armor does not reduce dodge. Power armor considered medium armor? It says power. So I assume that it works with it. Agility, controlled shot. Seen this before, Argenta has it. Ballistic skill, combat master, seen that as well, which we don't need. That's redundant because Abelard has the talent on brace for impact. It gives everybody within range that effect the rest of combat. Alacrity. Each shot fired by the soldier grants them +1 agility until the end of their next turn. Awareness. Firearm Mastery, upgrade 2. Until the end of combat, the soldier's rate of fire is increased by 30%. A combat Medicae. Never going to use that. Ballistic skill. Rapid fire. The soldier's next burst attack will have its rate of fire doubled, but deal 25% less damage. All the shots will follow random trajectories. Only works with weapons capable of burst fire. Demolition. Perception. Dueling Mastery grants +15 bonus to parry. Unfaltering fire. Rapid fire no longer reduces damage. That's good. It's basically a 25% damage boost. Dual weapon combat. Seen that before. He's going to have, I guess, his bolt pistol and his knife. It will not die. Seen that. Demolition. Firearm Mastery upgrade 1. At the end of the soldier's turn, they gain +4 MP and their attacks do not spend MP. Then Arc Militant, he has versatility. Kick. The Arch Militant makes a melee attack with a kick, dealing 15 damage instead of weapon damage. Attack does not count toward the attack limit per turn. It counts as a single melee attack for the purposes of versatility. Attack cannot be parried and will push the target 2 cells away. Martial Art. The target of kick must pass a toughness resistance test with a 0 penalty or fall prone for 1 round. Steady Superiority, we've seen that. AP increase, and ballistic skill. I so have to level him up all the way to here. I think we'll save that for next time. But super excited to have him in the party.
Whose innards need take leave of their gut.
Let's look at his origin talents. His flagship post abilities. His lateral impact. The strafe ability can be used to ram enemy ships at a 90% damage with the regular void ship ram ability, and without the bonus damage from distance traveled. A perfect pulse. Shield Pulse gains +1 range. Additionally, it does not expend the flagship shields. It has Plasma Weapon proficiency, Melta Weapon proficiency, Flame Weapon, Heavy Armor, Power Armor proficiency. Eternal Warrior. When Ulfar should fall unconscious... Alright, so we read this already. That was tutorial pop-up. So after 2 rounds, he returns to the fight with 50% of his maximum wounds. AP increase, Swift Hunter. Ulfar may use MP after attacking or using abilities. He's Dogmatic Follower, which I find a little odd. Stalwart Warrior. Space Marines' maximum wounds are increased by their toughness. Additionally, their bodies are considered full cover during enemy turns until they die or fall unconscious. And Fenris. Fenris is a death world of fire and ice, located on the fringe of the Segmentum Solar, and home to the Space Wolves chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Each planetary year, Fenris goes through a cycle of devastating cataclysms, which has turned its inhabitants into hardened and unyielding warriors, whose number only the select few are deemed worthy to bolster the ranks of the Space Marines of Lehman Russ. Voice cracked a bit. So the Space Wolves, unlike some other chapters, only recruit from one world, and they can really only recruit from that world. Also, they don't have any founding chapters. No, they've never split their chapter up. They've tried before, but it failed. Because they have a genetic curse that doesn't really let them create more chapters for their chapter. I'm not going to spoil it because I've already speculated since he was announced as a companion that it may come up in his story, so I'm not going to talk about it yet. A survival instinct. Once per combat, alright, we've seen this before on my character. I don't think I have it on him. So survival instinct. Once per combat, when the wounds of a Death World character drop below 30%, they gain 20% of their maximum wounds as temporary wounds. Death World characters also gain a 20% bonus at dodge and armor, while they have at least 1 temporary wound from any source. Adeptus Astartes, commonly known as Space Marines, these genetically engineered super soldiers are the most powerful and ferocious warriors in the Imperium. And in most of the galaxy. They are absolutely terrifying for most xenos to go up against. Combat Master, enemies gain no melee superiority bonuses against this character. Dueling Mastery we've seen, dual weapon combat, bolter weapon, proficiency in Adeptus Astartes equipment. Redundant here. And another Combat Master. This creature switches negative effects. Becomes staggered instead of suffering the stunned or cannot attack effect. Becomes slowed instead of immobilized. It suffers a psi dampening effect instead of a psychosomatic trauma. Also, the creature is immune to falling prone. And Black Carapace removes all dodge penalties from power armor. So why does he have the other ability for the medium armor? Makes no sense. But so Black Carapace is something, it's grafted underneath their skin, Space Marines, and allows them to interface with their power armor. So they have all these little ports all over their body so their power armor can plug directly into them. And it also acts as a sort of armor as well. Like, even if they don't have the power armor on, punch them in the chest, besides punching a wall of muscle, they have that carapace under their skin that protects them as well. Yeah, this is really exciting. I'm also really glad that Space Wolves are represented. Also, this axe is, I don't know if it's meant to be the axe, but there's a unique axe in the setting. It looks just like this. I'm wondering if we eventually get that for him. Which, I don't know what that means for the person that's supposed to be wielding it. I guess we'll find that out. Alright, let's change up our formation real quick. Yeah, I'm really excited about Ulfar. Which I heard means wolf, so a little redundant. Yeah, alright. I'm gonna call it here. Next time we'll go back to the chasm and I think go confront the Commissar after we level up Ulfar, which will take a little bit of time. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.